Can't see. I can't see. Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as we discuss full sale of Manchester United, full steam ahead. We also talk about David De Gea's contract being really close and Ten Hag's obsession for Frenkie de Jong never went away as he is determined to bring him to Manchester United this summer. And I'll tell you what, and I'll say this for free, if Manchester United sign Frenkie de Jong this summer and that's the only midfielder we sign, I, for one, will be a very, very happy gentleman. I'd be really, really happy because I just think that sometimes you've got to trust your manager, and the fact that this was the player that he wanted to bring in before he even came to Manchester United and is still obsessed with him now, I just wonder what magic Ten Hag thinks he can produce on top of the magic he's already produced with a player like that. So absolutely lots to get into this morning. Hope you're all doing well. Smash the like on the video and get involved. Fair play if you got involved in the TUS predictor last night for the Sevilla game. I was just doing mine this morning. I'm loving that game. I'm definitely going to win. If you want to play that, all the details are on the preview though. I'm not here to start talking about that, but I'm just very excited about it and playing against each other, so that'll be good. TUS predictor, links in the preview. Anyway, let's get on with the show. Lots to get into. I don't really know where to start, so we'll start on the new deals. I can see people in the chat already having a right old moan about the prospect of Frenkie de Jong. I think Frenkie. Look, I like Frenkie de Jong. I think he played fantastic at Old Trafford against us a couple of months ago. Really would like him at United. Okay, let's start off with Mike Keegan because for me, I think he's been one of the best journalists around the sale of Manchester United. We did a story yesterday afternoon which was from The Guardian, so Mike Keegan is from the Daily Mail. So let's just hit the headlines on this one. He says a full sale remains the most likely outcome from Manchester United's search for investment. This is according to Mike Keegan. Late last year, the club owners, the Glazers, announced that they would be open to takeover of the club or an injection of funds in exchange for a partial stake. April 28th has been set as the deadline for third and final offers from interested parties. Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani launched a bid for a full takeover, and he's rivalled by Sir Jim Ratcliffe, as we know. However, there are multiple other outlets and investors looking to sign up. Manchester, but obviously that would allow the Glazers to stay. But the question mark would be how can they build a stadium? How can they support Eric Ten Hag, etc., etc. So all those concerns have been spoken about. And Mike Keegan goes on to say that the scenario of the Glazers being kept in the club by outside investment would trigger outrage among a support which has consistently chanted for the Americans who plunged United into debt following the leveraged takeover in 2005 to sell the club. Sources close to the process, which is being overseen by US merchant bank Raingrove, believe that a full sale is the most probable conclusion. And I think this is what we've been saying for a few days, despite stories to the contrary. I think I and many of you hopefully are of the opinion that this is just all smoke and mirrors and there's no substance to it behind it, and that we will ultimately end up with the Glazers going. On Wednesday, those involved have the opportunity. So today, Mike Keegan is saying that that those involved in the bidding process will have the opportunity to ask final questions ahead of submitting their final offers. So today is the last opportunity for Qatari bids, Ineos bids, investors to ask questions of those involved in the bid, and then your final bids have got to be in by a week on Friday. And among those offering funds for a partial stake are American Carlyle Group and Elliott Investment Management as well. But Mike Keegan also goes on to say that the prospect of United becoming a toxic brand should the owners choose not to sell is likely to be one factor under consideration. Well, look, I appreciate that update. I think it's always good when you get updates from people who've been close to the process. And it verifies what we've been speaking about for the last 4 or 5 days, really, isn't it? I think it was Friday that there was talk of the Glazers wanting to stay and taking on investment. We didn't panic as a community. I think we've been quite positive and realistic, so applause to you. And basically everything that we've said is replicated now in the article by Mike Keegan, which obviously he's getting from sources close to it. The Glazers, if they do stay, will create a toxic brand for Manchester United. You cannot turn £5 into £10 when negativity is around your £5. You need positivity, you need prosperity. They don't have that. it will become very, very toxic, as we saw yesterday with the announcement of protests for the Villa game in a couple of weeks. So look, the Glazers may well want to hang on. They may well want to stay at the football club, but the day is gone. The dividends have gone. The club needs money and investment, and nobody wants you to stay. And anybody who's looking to invest would have to be a complete and utter idiot, because it's just going to be very, very toxic. And that has to be a factor when you're trying to make money. You know, if you've got £1 million and you want to turn that £1 million into £2 million over the next 10 years, do you want to invest in something where you're going to be universally hated and it's a very toxic environment? That's a very unstable way to put you. Look, at the end of the day, you've got £1 million, and I said to you, in 10 years' time, if you give me that £1 million, I guarantee you I'll give you 1.5 million back, so you'll make £500,000. It's a safe bet, and I'll guarantee it to you. And then somebody out the Glazers are going, give us that £1 million and we'll try and turn it into 2 million in the next 10 years. But look at how toxic and volatile it is. I'm going for the 1.5 million. I'll take the £500,000 profit. I'm not going to risk doubling my money in a toxic environment. So it's not a safe investment. It's as simple as that. And I think a full sale is the most likely outcome. So it's a really good update from Mike Keegan, as we said. Full sale. And I still think, like many of you said for a long time, it's Sir Jim versus Al-Thani, and Al-Thani is probably the favourite. So let's wait and see. I think we're in for a very interesting couple of weeks. I'm not expecting any major shocks. What I am expecting is a new world, and that new world will entail... Look, the new world with Al-Thani or Sir Jim is completely different to the last 17 years. I think we need to be cautiously optimistic about what is to come. I am cautiously optimistic. It's going to be a new world, but I don't see it being with a new world with the Glazers, and that for me is worth, and we've got to be patient with the new world as well. And look, this chat is irrelevant now, but I think that anybody jumping to reactions about, we don't want to be Man City, or we missed out on major sales for Sir Jim, whichever way it goes, we're going to have to be patient. They're not going to come in and buy everybody straight away, are they? But look, good update. Full sale is the most... if you want a percentage, I'm never going to use the word 90%, you know that. But if you want a percentage, I think we're very much north of 80% on United being a full sale. I really do. Please be guitar. Links in the chat. Wild Clip says Mark is mad. I'm neither mad in an angry way or a logical way, so you need to expand on that. Mark, do you see us with New World title contender next season, says Irfan. I don't know about that. I tell you what though, just it's not even on the schedule to talk about, but Osman, I watched him last night. I'm sure many of you have watched him plenty of times over the last season. Gutted to see Napoli go out. Half expected it. Mentioned it on That's Football when we were previewing the quarterfinals. I said Milan comprehensively beat Napoli in the league a couple of weeks ago. They seem to have Napoli's number. Napoli dominated both legs, but ultimately went out 2-1. I think Napoli have been tremendous, but ultimately they don't have the depth of a Real Madrid or a Man City, and I think they just ran out of steam. They're going to win the Scudetto, they're going to win Serie A, which is the same thing. They've had a fantastic season. Look, I was gutted to see Napoli go out last night, but it's probably a good thing if you harbour hopes of signing Victor Osimhen, because basically Napoli and their European exposure is over in the middle of April. That final would have been in June the 10th. I think if they'd got through Milan, they'd have been favourites to get to the final. They play the final mid-June. Osimhen deal's not going to happen for quite a while, is it? Now, Napoli probably win the league by the middle of May. Could probably start having conversations with Napoli by the end of May. So, look, I'm not saying Man United are going to get him. I think Chelsea will get him. But if you want Victor Osimhen, I think that deal is going to happen a lot quicker now. Whether you're Chelsea, Bayern Munich or Man United, that deal will happen a lot quicker. And like I say, I'm gutted that Napoli went out, but I actually think on the transfer of Victor Osimhen, I can't see him staying at Napoli for another year now, because he'll have seen the limitations of Napoli. They bottled it, really. And also, I don't think his price is going to go up anymore. And also, I think the deal can be done quicker. So the Victor Osimhen deal, for me, £100 million. I think that's the price we were talking about yesterday. And I think you can get into that deal a lot quicker. And it's interesting because I saw a story this morning about PSG and Harry Kane. And I'm like, he ain't going to leave the Premier League. is not going to leave the Premier League. I wish he bloody would, but he won't leave the Premier League because it's a typical British passport mentality. I don't want to leave England. I don't want to leave England. Southgate won't pick me. Can I just say as well, how the bloody hell does Tomori not get picked for England? He's actually English. He's got an English passport. He can't get in the England squad. Tomori, brilliant again last night. Been brilliant for 2 years in Italy. How does he not? I mean, I don't know why Chris Smalling doesn't get in the squad either. Southgate is a prize prat. I mean, how you can be picking people like Eric Dyer, even Harry Maguire, who barely plays for Man United, over Tomori. I'd bring Tomori back to the Premier League. I'd take Tomori at Man United. I'd happily take Tomori at Manchester United. Glazers Out says Tomori isn't English. I think you might want to check Wikipedia, mate. He's got England caps, you knob. But no, I would take Tomori at Manchester United. It baffles me every time I see it. But yeah, look, Harry Kane is going to take all summer to sign. Victor Osimhen, you can start working on that deal at the start of June. So whether you want Victor Osimhen or Kane, and I'd prefer Osimhen anyway, when you look at the deals and the financials, it makes more sense to go for Osimhen as well. But look, we're not in control of that. Of course we're not. In relation to new deals, get your questions in. It's a very all over the show this morning. We're trying to get there. But I'm trying to keep structure, but it's going to be very hard to keep the structure. When I think about Manchester United, I don't think about the structure. I think about the players. David De Gea, Rob Dawson, ESPN, saying that David De Gea's deal to sign a new deal at Manchester United is very close. Shambone, love it. Absolutely love this. We are looking at a lot of goalkeepers. I don't think a day goes by where we're not linked to a goalkeeper, and it can be a first-team goalkeeper in La Liga. It can be an up-and-coming goalkeeper in Austria. We are linked to so many goalkeepers because Manchester United have a goalkeeping issue in the summer. But it ain't the number one. David De Gea will sign a new contract. There will be a reduction in his wage, and he will be incentivized by performance. So look at how many clean sheets he's had and all that. That's how he'll be incentivized. He's currently on about 375k a week, which is ridiculous. I mean, I don't blame De Gea for signing it. I'd have signed it, but he's on 125 grand more than he really should be per week. So he will come down in wage to about 250, which is absolutely fine. And then he'll be incentivized beyond that. We need De Gea to stay. Fantastic player, fantastic influence on the team. We're not ready this summer to remove De Gea. I'm not saying that at some point we shouldn't remove De Gea. I try to see the other side, the obsessive De Gea haters club, which I just don't get. I try to look at it logically and say, look, I can see some of their arguments, but this is not the summer to do it. You don't replace a goalkeeper like that when you need a striker, a midfielder, a centre-back, and probably another midfielder. But maybe in the future. But De Gea signing a new contract is fantastic. He's out of contract in the summer, so we need that stability. And but I do believe we'll be looking at another goalkeeper, and I think it's going to be very interesting where we go. I've always preferred the Lafont argument, who is a young French goalkeeper. His contract's up in a year's time. You bring him in. He's got a lot of potential. He adjusts to the Premier League. I mean, look at Anthony. Imagine if Anthony was our goalkeeper and you put him in goal. He's had a really up and down season. You need to bring a goalkeeper in that can learn the ropes with De Gea, and De Gea sort of passes the baton. I'd love to see that happen in general in the United side, but in goalkeeper, where it's such a long-term position and you play most games, it's the most perfect position in the world to bring somebody in to work with De Gea to take them. I mean, look, Dean Henderson missed the trick. Dean Henderson's personality, unfortunately, clashed with what was required. He went to Sheffield United, he did really well. He should have come to Manchester United and gone, right, David De Gea is one of the greatest goalkeepers Man United have ever had. I'm gonna learn from him, I'm gonna be respectful, I'm gonna wait my time, and I will be Man United's number one. What did he do? He started gobbing off from day one. Oh, it's disrespectful that I'm not getting game time. And, you know, he blew it. He blew that opportunity. I actually think Henderson could have been an interesting profile as the backup goalkeeper for De Gea. And eventually, you know, could have been our number one. But you've got to have the right attitude, and he didn't have it. So United need to find a goalkeeper that can do that role. Do you think you will ever be accepted as a reporter by the mainstream media prats on Sky, says Jack? What makes you think I haven't been offered it, and what makes you think I would accept it? I've said it many a time. Look, I've seen Sky doing this more and more. There's a lot of YouTuber reporters for other clubs who are now being asked to go on Sky. But if they're stood outside after a match, or on, they're stood pitch side after a match, and then they're putting tweets out, I can't believe it, I've gone from running a YouTube channel to being on Sky Sports. And I'm like, do you not realise what you've just done? You know, when you get yourself a bit of Ribena and you pour a pint of water in and you dilute it, you've just diluted your content. You can't sit there and say Almiron was shit for Newcastle today anymore. You've got to go, well, it wasn't his best game, but I'm sure he'll be back next week. You're diluting what you're meant to be. I ain't going to do that. So I'm not bothered. If the end of my career on, as whatever it is we does happens in the next 2 months, or it happens in the next 2 years, it's over. But I'm not diluting what I talk about. I mean, last night I was sat talking about Lampard, and I said I don't know why they appointed Lampard. For me, you're never going to win with Lampard. It's like tying two arms behind your back and trying to win a wanking competition. It's never going to happen, is it? Not going to get that on Sky. Some people probably think that you should, but you're not. Why would the Glazers spend on Harry Kane if the sale takes more time than expected, instead of spending bare minimum for a mediocre striker, says Ragnar. Don't know. Anyway, let's continue with the story. We're going to stick with the SBM. We're going to stick with Rob Dawson, who's been on the channel before, Manchester United correspondent. I think he's also a Northern correspondent as well. He's spoken about midfield targets in the summer and effectively mentioned the name again. I mean, Bellingham was mentioned, I've got to be honest. Bellingham was mentioned, but it was also Frankie de Jong. I get really excited about this. I mean, I'm just going to have to do a quick poll this morning. Do you want de Jong? Yes or no? We're not going to compare him to anyone else. Do you want de Jong? And don't start thinking about last summer. I'm not asking you about last summer. I'm not asking you about, Richard Arnold and John Murta getting an EasyJet flight to Spain and looking like a couple of prats in their suits. I'm saying, if I can give you Frankie de Jong as our star midfielder this summer, do you want him? Yes or no? And for me, it's a resounding yes. I wasn't sure last summer, because I was like, why is Ten Hag so obsessed with a player that can't play the holding role? But I actually think I want him more this summer than I did last summer, because we've got Casemiro now. We always needed a holding midfielder over de Jong. And Ten Hag was obsessed with getting de Jong. And I don't think we would have got Casemiro if we'd got de Jong. But now I think this summer suits it even better. I think he's absolutely the sort of player that we need. I think he's more physical than Eriksen. He can play deeper than Eriksen, but he can also carry the ball and, dribble better than Eriksen, but he can also pass as good as Eriksen. And I like Eriksen, so I'm thinking, you're bringing a midfielder in there that's also ingrained in the way that Ten Hag wants to play football. So for me, I like de Jong. I think he's very, very good. But also, the fact that Ten Hag is obsessed with de Jong makes him such an intriguing signing. Now, I don't want us to waste the summer. Have you still got the de Jong t-shirt? I have, JT. I'm glad I didn't give it away on tour. I had it on tour to throw into the crowd, actually, but I'm glad I've kept it now. But I think with de Jong, if we can do the deal, great. But what we must do, above all anything else, is not waste time on the deal if it's unlikely. And it was unlikely last year, and we spent a lot of time on it. And it sounds unlikely this year. De Jong is still, I don't want to leave. And that's not a great look. He doesn't want to leave. Man United are still obsessed and want him, so Barcelona hold the key again like they did last year. And let's be honest, they played us. They played us like a piano last year. All the notes, up and down, high and low, they rinsed us. And we cannot do that this year. I think you've got to go to Barcelona and you've got to say, look, there's 70 million, you can have it now. If you don't, we're going for this player or this player, and that 70 million is gone. We will not be coming back. If you want to sell him to Man City or Chelsea in August, crack on. But we want him. We want him now. And there's the money. And you say this in June, early June. And if they say, well, we're going to wait around, we'll come back to you, we are interested. And then you start seeing about levers again. You just ring them up and you say, forget about it. Forget it. So that's what I would do if I was United. I'd say, there's the money. We do want him. Are you going to sell him? Okay, you're not. Goodbye. De Jong doesn't want to leave. Man United want him. Barcelona will only sell him because they need the money. He's their biggest wage earner, and he's probably their biggest asset they could sell realistically. If they don't want to sell, you move on. There's plenty of other options out there, but I would lay it on the door and I'd say, there you go. That's the option. I would hate to see you leave the channel for Sky. Keep on what you're doing here, Mark, says Martin. Thank you very much, Martin. And he's repeatedly made it clear he doesn't want to join us as the LMH. Why would we buy someone who doesn't want to wear the shirt? Because Barcelona want to sell him. It's as simple as that. You know, if Barcelona want to sell him, you've got to jump in there and buy him. Mark, dream transfer window under Qatar, says Will. Well, you know what, Will? I don't think it's even a dream transfer window under Qatar I'm going to talk about here. I think I'm just going to do a very realistic transfer window at Manchester United, for Manchester United if we had competent ownership. Because I'm not going to spend $500 million. I'm going to actually sell Dean Henderson for about 25. I'm going to sell Maguire or Lindelof for about 30. I'm going to sell, people like Brandon Williams, Tellez, and Bailly for about another 20 million. So I'm going to raise at least 70-80 million pounds just from player sales. I only want to spend about 250. So my net spend with sales is around 150 million quid, which I don't think is unreasonable for a club that's trying to go to the next level. So whether it's Qatar or Sir Jim or whoever, my net spend is only going to be 150 because I don't believe in what Chelsea have done, which is excessive spending. I would buy Victor Osimhen for 100. I would buy Frankie de Jong for 70. And I would buy Kim Min-jae for 40, which is 210 million. And then I would buy probably a goalkeeper and Sabitzer. And I'd probably get all that done for around 250. Take off the 80 that I've just sold on players, and my spend is about 170 million. That's what I'd be very happy with that. And look, if Wan-Bissaka wants to go, I replace him with Frimpong. And I might actually make a bit of money. So I don't need 200 million quid. I need about 170 million quid. And I can have my dream summer of Osimhen, De Jong, Kim Min-jae, a goalkeeper to understudy De Gea, and probably Sabitzer. And I'd be very happy with that as a summer. I think it's very progressive. So, yeah, and I don't think, I think sometimes we run away with, we've got to do this, that and the other. And, of course, you could buy 6 or 7 players if you had ridiculous money. But I don't really feel the need to do that, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, get your comments in on that and what you would do. Just a couple of other things I wanted to mention as well. Here it is. This is what I wanted to mention as well. Big news this, just in, the statue of Jimmy Murphy will be unveiled at Old Trafford on Wednesday, May the 3rd, exactly 65 years after he led the club to the FA Cup final at Wembley. If you don't know your history of Manchester United, Jimmy Murphy, absolutely intrinsic involvement in Manchester United alongside Sir Matt Busby, an absolute legend of this club. And you need to know your history, and you need, especially around that era of Manchester United. The late 50s into the 60s was a tragedy. And a rebirth of this great football club, and Sir Jimmy Murphy had a massive part to play in that. So great news about that, and always good to hear things like that happening at Manchester United as well, because in these last 10 years we wander back to the past probably a little bit too much, don't we? Also, Garnacho has been pre-selected for the Under-20 World Cup, which will take place in May. Little bit disappointed about that because, we've got big games to play in May, and Garnacho, I think, is better served close to the Manchester United setup than he is going to do stuff like that. But we'll have to wait and see how that one pans out. We sort of have been warned about it, but I don't really want it to happen. I don't know about you. I'd like to see Garnacho staying. I mean, look, we've lost him for a few weeks with injury. He comes back to get fit to go and play in the Under-20s World Cup. And look, you cannot. Brazil's the same. The Under-20s World Cup for England, I think Mourinho pulled Rashford out of it, didn't he, years ago, and said it's a waste of time going to it. But international football in certain areas of the world is a lot more important than it is in other areas of the world. So, look, maybe he will go. Who are the genuine suitors for Maguire, says PQ? What clubs need a centre-back next season that are willing to take him and can afford him? Genuinely curious. I don't think Harry Maguire's going anywhere, if you want me to answer that question. I don't think he has the motivation to go anywhere. And also, I don't think there's a club out there that's going to give us the money we would want. He's on a massive contract. I mean, I can't speak. I can't really about the contract that we gave him, a 6-year deal plus one on 200 grand a week. It's the most... I mean, it just doesn't deserve a contract like that. And unfortunately, it could be Phil Jones Mark II, where you just cannot remove him from the club. Unless he's ambitious, I don't see him going. And what I mean by ambitious is, does he want to go and play football for the last few years of his contract, for his career? Because he could go and play for West Ham, he could go and play for Everton, he could go and play for Spurs probably. But does he want to go and do it? I think he should be playing first team football. I don't think he's going to play enough first-team football at Man United. I think he's always going to be reliant on injuries. If Varane and Martinez are fit, he's not going to play. So, but I wouldn't worry about who would like to buy him. I think he's got to want to go first, and I don't think he will. If 4 of the Glazers sell to a single minority investor, then the minority investor would have control of the club, not Joel or Avram, I think, says Andy. I wouldn't even worry about it, Andy. I just don't think it'll happen. And Perry Smith says, I want Osman or Ferguson, but if they sent possible, what do you think of Muani? I think he's got the best goal assists in Bundesliga since the World Cup, says Perry. Look, Muani's interesting, but I wouldn't put him in the category of a Osman or a Harry Kane. I think distinctively below that. But if Eric Ten Hag thinks that Muani's the answer, then let's go and get him. It's as simple as that. But I think Muani will be, further down the list if I'm being completely honest on that one. Just having a little flick through your comments here. I've read that before. There was something I wanted to talk about. I've completely forgotten. It's completely slipped my mind. I know I mentioned Osman off the cuff, but there was somebody I wanted to talk to you about, and I can't remember who it was. Who is it? I will remember. Let me just see if I've put my notes down. I don't normally put my notes down anymore. This is the problem. If there was a problem, I'll solve it. Yes, that was it. Axel, I can't pronounce his name. Axel Disasi, who is he's 25 years of age, and he currently plays for Monaco. I'm not going to pretend to know loads and loads about him. There'll be people out there that go, oh, is this, is that, he's everywhere. Central defender, right footer, and plays for Monaco. We've been linked to him. I don't know what I'm just having a quick look at his contract situation here. I'm not even going to pretend that I've watched lots of him or know a lot about him. Can't even pronounce his name. Axel Disasi at Monaco. His contract is up in 2 years' time, so 2025. So it sort of feels like I don't know where it's coming from. It could be complete and utter nonsense, but again, I think it's always nice to add in. Andy Weatherall's just gifted a membership, by the way. I think it's always nice to add in more options. I think there's a lot of options available up front. There's a lot of options available in the midfield, and adding in more options is never a bad thing. We know at centre back, Timber gets mentioned a lot. Kim Min-jae gets mentioned a lot, but add the centre back in from Monaco, who I can't pronounce his surname. Add Tomori in. There's some really good, and I think we're looking for a right-sided centre back, by the way. I know a lot of people mention Ndika, but if I recall correctly, I'm pretty sure Ndika's left-footed, and we need a right-footed centre back. We are definitely looking for somebody that can challenge Varane because of Varane's fitness and age. So we need a right-footed centre-back because Charlie says we're being used to generate interest. I don't mind, Charlie. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't mind whether it's a true story or a generate interest story. It really doesn't matter. What interests me is that there is scope there to look at many different options. And as I said, I quite like Tomori. And again, right footer. I would like Tomori at Manchester United. Kim Min-jae obviously mentioned a lot. Timber's a player that Ten Hag tried to get last summer. You got this Monaco lad. It's an intriguing summer if all you've got to worry about is the sale or the transfer budget, because I think we're heading into a summer where there's plenty of centre-backs available, there's plenty of midfielders available, and there's plenty of strikers available, and therefore you've just got to get it right. I've known summer transfer windows where you desperately need one position and there's really only one player available, and you know that the club's going to mess it up. I think there's lots of options out there, and so I welcome it. I mean, if he'd been, I'd rather he be a centre-back than another midfielder, because there's loads of options there. I know this sounds unrealistic, but surely if Qatar buy Man United, we could get Mbappe instead of any other striker. Would be that a deal, says Tom? I mean, look, the Mbappe possibility is there because of Qatar and PSG and Manchester United and Qatar with Al Thani. But I'd never say never. I think football's a weird thing. But I think we have to operate within reason and not start saying we're going to sign Mbappe in the summer, because that's a lot. That's a very big leap to say. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I wouldn't even bother start talking about it until we're in a position where it's a possibility. Would I take Mbappe at Man United? I think he's arguably the best player in the world. Does his personality fit what we're trying to do? I think we're trying to build a team. Paul says too much of an ego, and I think we're trying to build a team. I mean, I think Mbappe is fantastic, but we're trying to build a team. Personally, I'd rather have Vinicius Junior than Mbappe, which I know it doesn't make sense, but I can't fail but be impressed by that lad. I think his mentality and teamwork and team ethic in that Real Madrid side is fantastic. I was very impressed with Rodrigo over the Chelsea games as well. Mbappe's better. Mbappe's, as I say, probably the best player in the world. But look at PSG. They've got 2 or 3 of the best players in the world, and they can't win the Champions League. They can't even lay a glove on it. Sometimes you've got to build a team, and I think we've got to build a team. What about Thuram on a free? Well, as a free, it's interesting, Joshua. Mark, why was Sancho not mentioned when you spoke about your dream window? Raising 40 million and removing 300k a week in wages is up there with the Maguire exit. Well, Charlie, I know you're very adamant that we should be doing that, but I think there's next to no chance that we'll remove Jadon Sancho this summer. I can't see it. I really, really can't. Anyway, I'm off to the dentist. Pray for Goldbridge. I hate going to the dentist, but I'm off to the dentist. I don't really mind, actually, but I have got to go a little bit early this morning. But don't forget, we've got Erik ten Hag's press conference coming up very soon. I think it's this evening at about 6:30, so we'll be reacting to that out in Spain. We'll actually have some footage of the training to go up for you on the channel today as well, because we are out there with Adam. Hopefully he'll ask a better question this season, this time, but we'll see what we can arrange there. I've certainly put a couple about to him that I think would be really good for Erik ten Hag. But we've got that to react to as well. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll speak to you all a little bit later on. We will have a video at 2 o'clock as well. I'm sure there'll be something to react to then. Take care, everyone. Speak to you all in a bit. Smash a like on the video. And don't forget, if you want to play the TUS Predictor, get onto the preview. I've put my 10 questions, chances to win some cash. You've got to be over 18. All to do with the Sevilla game. Check it out on the Sevilla preview if you want to play it. I've got my entries in. And I think it's free to play as well on the first game against Sevilla. And you can get a free entry to the Brighton game as well. So check it out on the preview. I'll speak to you a little bit later. Thanks for watching.